Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio, where we keep you informed, engaged, and entertained, and we fill your ears with all sorts of good conversation about the Montreal Canadiens. And we have a great show coming up for you today. In case you're new around these parts, my name is Amy Johnson. I'll be your host for today's show. This is episode 327 of the Canadiens Connection podcast. And I am pleased, of course, to be joined in the studio each week by my co-host. He's the founder and president of Rocket Sports. His name is Mr. Rick Stevens. And I'm betting he's wearing a Santa hat today.
Now, if I could fit that with wearing the headphones, I would probably do. I need one of those like Jose Theodore had for the outdoor game in Edmonton that fit over
his mask.
Yeah, like a toque. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It is our Christmas show. A couple of days before Christmas, and the NHL Christmas trade freeze has been enacted. But not before. We got some things to talk about.
We do. There's been a trade. We have a trade to announce.
Mm-hmm.
We have Christmas cookies to eat probably at some point.
Really? Mm-hmm. All right.
Were we supposed to do like an office gift exchange or something?
A cookie exchange?
Oh, we could do a cookie exchange. That'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of great... Before we get to the holiday celebrations,
I bet Mike Rashel makes good cookies.
I bet Mike Rashel.
He has a dairy.
Yeah, so he's got
part of the ingredients.
Yeah,
Rocket Sports team member Mike
Rashel. Yeah, he's got an endless supply of the milk that needs to go with the cookies. So, it's a little side hustle down there on the farm. Open a cookie stand to go with the milk. I like it. Before we get to all the holiday celebrations, of course, we need to take care of some business for the last week for the Montreal Canadiens, and it's been a busy one. We're going to get you caught up on everything that happened with the three games that took place for the Canadiens, do some brief recaps, although lots happened in those three games. They're pretty remarkable games, each in their own. So we're going to get you caught up on that. Do a little bit of roster news, some prospect news, including on the ground in St. Petersburg for an Ivan Demidov update, because the Canadiens are there in Russia to scout him. So lots to come about that. The Laval Rocket, the Trois-Rivières Lions, I've got some great quotes of the week from Lane Hutson, and a couple of big pieces of news around the hockey world in general that we want to cover. Before we get then to our second segment, our big topic this week, entitled "Carrier Comes to Montreal. Does this move signal a change from Hughes and Gorton?" And we are going to not only break down the trade that sent Justin Barron to Nashville in exchange for defenseman Alexandre Carrier, but we are also then going to review, they've been with the organization long enough that we can take a look back now at the trades that Hughes and Gorton have put together over the last couple of years and evaluate them, remind you of what they gave up, what they got in return. If they got picks in return, what did those picks turn into, and kind of take an analytical look at how Hughes and Gorton overall have done with their trading legacy so far, which I think is going to be a pretty interesting big topic coming up.
Not all the picks, not all the trades. We'll leave out the Brandon Baddock one.
Oh, well, yeah, we can.
And probably leave off Casey DeSmith. We'll leave that one.
Yeah, that could probably. Yeah.
Gianni Fairbrother.
Probably. The big ones.
Yeah, the major ones.
The really impactful trades. That's right.
There was Cam Hillis that went to Chicago.
Yeah. Jan Mysak. Keep going.
I like Jan Mysak.
I like Jan Mysak too. And then in our third segment, we've got lots and lots of viewer and listener comments to get to this week. Everyone seemed to have something to say about last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week, themed around the Christmas holiday season. So we've got lots of your comments to read this week as well. We have a very fun question of the week for you to answer this week as well. Of course, you want to check out that as well. And then we'll get you all set up for next week. So we've got lots to cover on episode 327. This episode titled, of course, Trade Grades, Assessing the Best and Worst Moves of the Hughes Gorton Era. And don't forget, as always, this is an interactive podcast. We want to hear from you. Feedback, comments, questions, and of course, answers to our Canadiens Connection question of the week. Easiest way for you to reach out to us is to text us 24/7 at the Rocket Sports text line, 585-3-ROCKET. Again, that's 585-3-ROCKET. You can also comment on any of our social media channels. Just follow us at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, or Instagram. Also, over on our YouTube channel, be sure you head over to InsideTheCanadiens.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can always drop a comment on the Canadiens Connection video there on the YouTube channel as well. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's get to the games that took place this past week, starting with, I know this was one that Rick was probably geared up for last Saturday night. The Winnipeg Jets hosting the Montreal Canadiens. And while Winnipeg kept going on their kind of dominance of teams that they have this year, winning this game 4-2. It was a significant night for one young defenseman.
Laine Hutson. Laine Hutson has come close, but it wasn't until last Saturday night that he scored his first NHL goal. And it was the first goal of the game. Nice shot, beat Connor Hellebuck. He opened the game about the 7:50 mark with the Canadiens leading 1-0, and then it was the Winnipeg Jets who went to work and really a workmanlike effort. The Jets, top team in the NHL, and they looked like it. They took control, and special teams kind of decided this one. The Jets went 2 for 6 on the power play. The Canadiens went 0 for 4. So 2 power play goals, and the Jets got an empty netter and walked away with a 4-2 win.
They did. A few days later, the Canadiens were back at home. This was Tuesday night to host the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo has, to say they've been struggling would be to put it mildly. We know that they're on a whopper of a losing streak, bad enough that Sabres owner Terry Pegula was in Montreal with the team to have a team meeting with the Sabres. And if Tuesday's game result, Rick, was any indication, I think maybe he needs to have a longer talk with the team.
I don't know. That was ugly. It was a 10-game winning streak. Pegula arrives in Montreal, gives his speech to the coaches, management, players to try and extend his support. They lost badly against the Canadiens and have lost again. They're now on a 12-game losing streak, last in the Eastern Conference, and they're looking in complete disarray. And the game started off just 19 seconds in. Yoel Armia scored his 5th of the season. That fourth line, why would you start your fourth line? Well, that fourth line has been playing really well. Fourth line of Jake Evans, Emil Heineman, Yoel Armia opened the scoring. As I said, just 19 seconds in, and then kind of the floodgates open, and it was the Patrik Laine show on the power play. 3 power play goals, a hat trick. The hats rained down, and he was a great night for Patrik Laine, great night for the Montreal Canadiens, not such a great night for the Buffalo Sabres.
No, it was not. Fast forward to Friday night, the rare Friday night game for the Canadiens this week, no Thursday night game. They were in Detroit for the first half of a home and home. They'll play the second half of that home and home series at the Bell Center on Saturday night tonight. And this, I think this game was a little closer than folks anticipated, at least by the end of the first period. Second period got to be a bit ho-hum, but it was kind of a landmark night in a number of ways. Montreal ending up finding a way to come out on top in this one. So, Rick, I remember last week on the show, we talked about what's on the Canadiens' holiday wish list, Christmas wish list for Santa. I know one of the things that you had on there was to get them their first 3-game winning streak of the season. They have 2 in a row.
All eyes on
can it happen on Saturday night?
Game. Yeah, they're on the verge of. They've been on the verge before this season, but they're on the verge of a 3-game winning streak, which we said is what they needed. It's a start, anyway.
We'll see if Santa's going to grant your wish.
Yeah. The other thing that Santa did, that the Canadiens were on a very long streak. In fact, they tied an NHL record for a 31 game streak where they amassed less than 30 shots. They broke that on Friday night. First game that they have gotten to 33 over 30 shots. It was 33 on Friday night.
This season,
that's right. So that was a bit of a milestone as well. And there were others. Arber Xhekaj, his first goal of the season. Jake Evans, his 300th game. He had a terrific game.
Yeah, he did.
Scored a shorthanded goal. That's 6 on the season for him. Remember one of the other Santa wishes?
Score on a breakaway.
Score on a breakaway. Jake Evans did that, so he broke the breakaway curse. He had a goal and assist plus 3. Terrific game for Jake Evans.
Maybe I should have put some personal items on this Santa list last week because it seems to be
they're all
panning out.
He was delivering. Santa was delivering early. Emil Heineman scored his 7th goal of the season quietly. Mm-hmm. He is second in rookie goal scoring, second only to Matvei Michkov. Patrik Laine scored his 7th power play goal in 8 games. That makes him the first player in NHL history to score 7 power play goals in his first 8 games with a team.
That's pretty significant. Okay. That's go Patty.
Want another milestone?
Sure.
It's only the second time that this season that the Habs have won without Nick Suzuki getting a point.
All right, then.
Yeah.
How about one more?
Sure.
This is the first game for Alexandre Carrier.
Oh, yeah.
As a Montreal Canadien. He was traded in between Tuesday's game and Friday's game, and so he made his debut with the Canadiens as well. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later in the show.
This was a good game. It was back and forth. Heineman opening the score. Patrick Kane with that. That was a bad goal on Montembeault, but what a shot by Kane, Evans, and Veleno, back and forth. But these two teams have done that in the past. You remember they ended the regular season in a back-to-back last season where Logan Mailloux and
Lane
Hutson both made their debuts. Both games were 6-5 in overtime, thereabouts. Mm-hmm. So being a 1-goal game is kind of fits with the nature of these two teams.
We'll see what happens on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
That puts the Canadiens now with a 12-16-3 record, 27 points on the season, 28th overall in the NHL. And while that's not in the 30s, just don't look at their goal differential because it's a little scary.
Worst in the Eastern Conference presently at -25. And the projections from Money Puck puts them on a pace for a 78-point season. That means they have a 3.3% chance of making the playoffs.
Hooray. Hooray. Roster news, there's actually not much of this week, which I think, knock on wood, is it's a nice change of pace because the injury bug staying tucked away maybe for the winter. The only real big thing is that thing that we're going to talk about in depth in our big topic segment, and that was the Canadiens acquiring defenseman Alexandre Carrier from the Nashville Predators in exchange for defenseman Justin Barron. In that debut that he made against Detroit on Friday, just under 19 minutes of ice time. Couple of shots on goal.
And that ice time is probably more than he was used to, and more than Justin Barron was getting. So
yeah, We'll see how that continues. Wearing number 45, the great Aaron Asham's number. That's
what makes you think of?
No, I'm
45.
He wore 45 for the Canadiens for the brief time that he was there, but no, I think there's someone a little more.
I think there was about a dozen players.
Something like that. Yeah.
Gilbert Dion is the one that comes to mind for me. There's Mark Barberio. He had the mustached Mark Barberio, Mike Blunden, Kirby Reichel, Riley Barber.
As you said when we were discussing this yesterday, I think it was. And I mentioned that it was Laurent Dauphin's number.
That's right.
And you replied, well,
I guess he's not getting
called up from Laval.
or he changes.
He's going to have to change his number if he does.
I think he's not at the front of the line necessarily.
I don't think so. All right. And as far as Saturday night's game, the Canadiens, because they flew back from Detroit overnight, no morning skate for them on Saturday. So we won't hear from Mr. St. Louis until about an hour before puck drop.
But we want to hear from Mr. St. Louis.
Well, some people might not want to hear from Mr. St. Louis was getting a little testy this week with some members of the media. And not testy, but he also tries to be really clever. Mm-hmm. He likes to be a quotable guy. And so I think sometimes he tries too hard to be quotable. And I think this was one of those instances that his analogy just, I don't know. Just you listen for yourself and see what you think. This is his exchange with Athletic reporter Arpon Basu.
I guess further to that, where, you identified this year as being a learning how to win year. You're almost at Christmas here. Where do you feel your team is at in learning how to win, if you had to evaluate it?
I think it's better.
Well, better than before. It wasn't very good before, let's say. So,
yeah, but it depends how you measure. Yeah, how do you measure success, Arpon? How do you measure success? The amount of clicks that you get on your...
How do I measure success?
Yeah, how do you measure success?
When I write a good story.
Okay,
yeah.
but does it matter how many clicks you get?
But do matters to my boss.
I understand, but like you personally.
No.
Okay.
I like to read if I read my story the next day,
I
it's
feel
good.
the same way.
Okay.
I can't control how many clicks with you. You can't control that. You're only trying to put your best foot forward, and that's what we're doing. And I feel our best foot forward right now. Even when we won games, maybe we had a better record through a stretch. I feel we're competing way more now in this league, minus period here, period there. We're way more organized. We're better defensively. It doesn't guarantee winning. Winning is not loyal. Winning doesn't negotiate. It's, it takes what it takes. But I like what I see, and it's to keep going that way.
Oh, this was. Oh, he was dancing. He was doing a bit of dancing, Marty St. Louis, because he said we've moved at his measuring stick for this season, and his philosophy for this season was moving past the development phase to the learning to win phase. Mm-hmm. Learning how to win. That's what the focus was going to be. But implicit by his question, Arpin was kind of saying, you haven't been winning very much. And compared to, we're at Christmas, coming up to the Christmas break, you're kind of behind. And Marty said, we're better this season, and we're better in this regard, in this regard, in this regard, and so on. And he's moving the goalposts, or he's bringing his own measuring stick. He's redefining what success means in the NHL, redefining what success means to coaching. He's redefining what success means to sports, I guess, because he said to him, wins don't matter. He can't control wins. He can only control how the team feels. And I thought that was, sure, Arpin can feel pride in when he writes a good article and he rereads the article that he wrote, and he maybe gets compliments from fellow journalists. But as he said, it's going to be his boss to determine
if it was successful
or not. And part of that is going to be who reads it.
And that went right over Marty's head.
Yeah, I think it did.
I don't think that he got that your bosses might care if you don't.
Yeah. So he was saying, hey, we're the same. You don't care about clicks. You care about how you feel when you've written something that you're proud of. I'm with you. I can't control wins. That's out of our control, which
to a degree, but
yeah,
but also, yeah.
Anyway, so it's a way of addressing why they haven't met the goal that he set, and he's basically saying, not my fault. All I can do is put the conditions in place and see what happens. So, interesting that he's trying to talk his way through the lack of success, the lack of playing meaningful. It appears they're not going to be playing meaningful games or being in the mix by March or April, and he's trying to find a message, find a way of explaining that the reporters can relate to.
And also, as we've said a few times over the course of the season, this is particularly in the last month or so, this is the first time in his coaching career that Marty St. Louis is actually starting to face some criticism, some questioning of results, those types of things. And I still don't think that he knows how to handle that yet. And I think questions like this make him squirm because he doesn't want to admit things aren't going well. In fact, there were some members of the French media who, after hearing that comment, absolutely lost their gourd about how that response came out. That, what do you mean you're happy with what you see? Are you are you nuts?
Yeah. Yeah.
You should be peeling the paint off the walls saying, this is not acceptable. What is going on? Something has to change. So
we're talking about today, we're talking about whether there's been a change in the organization and a change with respect to Hughes and Gorton and so on. Well, this might mark a change of how Marty St. Louis is being perceived and characterized by the media, because you're right. After this, there were some who said some negative things, the kinds of things that they haven't said up to this point.
No,
in his tenure.
That's right. All right, we have some really interesting things to get to in this week's Habs prospect report. So let's not waste another minute.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
Now, each week we do highlight a Montreal Canadiens prospect before we get the rest of the prospect news in. This week we're going to go to the Brantford Bulldogs and talk about defenseman Owen Protz, because he's had quite a week this week. Brantford playing 3 games, Friday, Wednesday, Sunday last week. And he's just racking up assists like nobody's business.
Yeah, we talked about Owen Protz at the beginning of the month. And I mean, he's a two-way defenseman. He's a very physical defenseman. He brings violence. He's a heavy hitter, not necessarily known for his offense. But we talked about early in the month, a 2-goal game he had against the Peterborough Petes. Last Sunday, he plays for the Brantford Bulldogs. He had a 3-assist game against Kingston Frontenacs. Brantford won that game 10-1.
Okay.
All right then. And on Wednesday, it was Brantford against Brampton. Brantford won 7-4 again, 3 assists. So that's 6 assists for the week. He was, by the way, he was a +5 in that game against Kingston last Sunday. Friday night, yesterday, as we are recording on Saturday, no points, but he did have 3 shots on goal. So he's getting involved in the offense. 6 points this past week, and a great week for prospect defenseman Owen Protz.
You'll remember when he was drafted, this was the kid that did talk about the fact that, you know, he likes to play rough. He likes to play with the edge. He's a big kid. He throws the body around, that type of thing. And he doesn't shy away from. I can't wait till this kid gets to the AHL, because I think that he's going to love that challenge in that aspect.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, the time that we've all been kind of sitting on the edge of our seats wondering, when is this going to happen? Ever since it came out a number of weeks ago that members of the Montreal Canadiens executive team would be traveling to Russia, to St. Petersburg, to pay a visit to Ivan Demidov. Remember, this first came out when every single week media, fans, social media, and I think even members of the Canadiens organization and management were questioning every week the lack of ice time that Demidov was getting, or the amount of times he was a healthy scratch, or if he would play for a period and then get benched for the rest of the game, that type of thing. And it came out in around that time that management was going to be traveling to St. Petersburg to check in on Demidov. Well, obviously, actual travel arrangements and so forth were kept kind of hush-hush. Well, it's out there now that Kent Hughes and I think Nick Bobroff and Vinny Lecavalier are in St. Petersburg now to watch Demidov play for SKA. They had a meeting with SKA's head coach, Roman Rodenberg. He's been a quote machine this season when it comes to Demidov. And in fact, he actually put out his own statement after meeting with the Canadiens brass, announcing that he had this meeting, and there's actually video that came out, followed them around and so forth.
There was 7 minutes on Rotenberg's Telegram channel of video.
About that PR.
He really used this as an opportunity to promote Scott, St. Petersburg, KHL, Russian hockey. He had a lot to get out there. Consider it propaganda, consider it whatever you will. But he was no shrinking violet. He was even the picture and the video have him right in the center of this grouping of Lecavalier, Hughes, and Bobroff, like he's conducting a symphony.
Summit,
Yeah, he incredible.
So out of the 7-minute video, which is pretty interesting in its entirety, but This clip in particular is a series of scenes where Rotenberg is talking about how young Ivan Demidov is improving.
That when you send to Ivan, you send him this plan for the off-ice practice. Yeah. It's very similar to what we do, so it's same. He became much stronger. No, he was not strong. Let's say last spring, I had a talk with him. He was weak. He was thin like this. Now he's strong.
Getting stronger.
He's winning battles on the boards now.
Yeah.
Before not. Now he's better.
Yeah.
So I think he will improve. So he has genes to be like Kaprizov. He has genes to be strong.
On skates.
He can be strong.
Yeah.
Ego is a little bit of a thing with Roman Rotenberg, I think.
My goodness.
Yeah, you know that off-ice training that you sent? Yeah, it's the same as what
we got that covered.
That's the same as what I
we
do
look
here.
We looked after it already. Thanks for sending it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're worried about his development. Are you? I've maybe heard a comment or two that you're concerned about his development. Well, he's better now that we've had him. He's become much stronger. I had a talk with him. He was weak. And
in the video, when he says he was weak, he was like, and he points to his pinky finger. He was like this. Yeah. Now he's stronger.
Wins the battles on the boards and drops it. Just drops the name Kaprizov.
Yeah. He's got genes like Kaprizov. Don't set the bar too high for Habs fans.
He went on, and this has been translated, so forgive the translation. But he says, our colleagues from the Montreal Canadiens are visiting St. Petersburg, says who it is, Hughes, Stanley Cup winner and legend Vincent Lecavalier, and Bob Roth. We're always happy to welcome guests. They embarked on a long and challenging journey to visit us in Perton. I have a lot of respect for their highly professional approach. Montreal is the oldest and most successful club, and their stadium was previously the world's largest. That was before Ska Arena opened.
Okay.
Yeah, he says that he was 20 years ago. When I was at the arena in Montreal, it was the best in the world. Today, the best is in St. Petersburg. Montreal is a city that truly lives for hockey. The opinion of the leaders of such a historic franchise are valuable to us. Pleasing that Hughes and Lecavalier were pleasantly surprised by the Ska Arena, talking about its size, its capacity, its comfort, and the wonderful atmosphere created by our supporters. So again, presenting that this is a wonderful development environment for Demidov. We discussed the development of young players, the club's infrastructure, cooperation in the field of youth ice hockey. Now he's saying what they talked about, no corroboration. We engaged in interesting and useful conversations, and this is interesting. The most important thing is that we have a common view with regard to the importance of our country's return to the international arena. Of course, Russia's been excluded because of political atmosphere and because hockey is unthinkable without matches between Russia and Canada. And so he's speaking for the Canadiens, saying that it's a common view that Russia should support. Russia should return to the international hockey. That I found very interesting. And he said these people showed respect by flying to us. They flew around the world, and we will have more discussions tomorrow. So this is, he is, he's telling it like he sees it for sure. And no report from the Montreal Canadiens on which parts they agree with. And I don't expect that they will. They're not going to jeopardize Demidov. And it was said that those three individuals had an opportunity to meet privately with Demidov. What would their message be to him? Well, just count the months, count the games, and just get through it. This may be difficult for you. You may want to play more. You may think you can contribute more. They may be pressuring you for, with respect to signing a contract. Just let's get through this.
Yeah.
And regardless of what's being said, we're supporting you, and we can't wait to have you in North America. That wasn't said. That wasn't. I'm just filling in the blanks for the Montreal Canadiens.
Right. Well, it certainly is. It's going to be interesting to. I can't imagine that there won't be some sort of debrief when they get back to a degree, because I think the Canadiens are savvy enough to know that the members of the media and the fans are going to be salivating to hear something from Hughes or Bobroff or someone, even if it's just a statement. So we'll see what happens when they come back. Now, Jeff Gorton. Talking, of course, it was unusual when Alexandre Carrier did his first press conference with the Habs media after being traded, that it wasn't Kent Hughes then who met the media afterwards to talk about the trade. It was Jeff Gorton, and at first it was kind of like, what's Jeff Gorton doing? Well, now it became obvious that it's because Kent is on the other side of the world. And so in talking about that and revealing that, here's what Jeff Gorton had to say about what Kent Hughes is currently out doing.
I mean, we have prospects all over the world, and we're, basically, if we draft you or we sign you, you're in our family, and we're going to go see you and watch you play. We're going to monitor you and let you know how we feel about your play, let you know that we're watching. And that's what this is. This is a scouting trip that Kent's on. It's a short trip. He'll be back soon, and a chance for him to see more than one player over there that's ours.
Great bit of information. First, He was kind of asked to justify making this trip in the current political climate, and he did just that. I thought it was a great answer, saying, hey, you're part of our family. We're going to go watch you. Characterized it as a scouting trip that Kent, Bobroff, and Vinny Lecavalier are on, and that Demidov, that they're going to see more than one player.
Not just the only,
and we know that the Canadiens have other prospects in Russia, in the KHL, and so on. Volokin, Kunushkov, Hanen.
Bogdan, is Bogdan over there? I can't remember.
Bogdan Kunushkov, yeah. And as well, there may be an opportunity that Bobroff has keyed in on some draft eligible players that he wants to present to Hughes and Lecavalier. So they're going to get around and see their prospects and future prospects, perhaps, and he said a short trip and doesn't say when they're coming back, and that's all just about security for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and just get you caught up on how the Laval Rocket has done this past week. They've played 3 games in the past week. They had a Saturday-Sunday lineup last weekend, playing in Hartford on Saturday night against the Wolfpack. That's the AHL affiliate of the New York Rangers. A little surprising to see them drop that game again. If they've had some struggles with the wins recently. Hartford winning 4-2 in that one. Lucas Candata, it's made it obvious as to why he was named captain of the Laval Rocket this year. Not hesitant to drop the gloves to defend a teammate when needed. Adam Engstrom took the brunt of a nasty hit in that game, and Candata right in there.
Mm-hmm. And he's not a fighter, but no. He's plays with an edge. He'll stand up for his teammates, and there's a young rookie defenseman that is a prospect of the Canadiens. Candata knows that, and was unafraid to step right in and take care of business.
Then the following afternoon, they continued their road trip in Connecticut. This was the all-Connecticut weekend. They were in Hartford on Saturday night. Then in Bridgeport, Connecticut on Sunday afternoon. The Bridgeport Islanders, of course, are the affiliate of the New York Islanders. Laval absolutely turned things around in this game, won 6-2. And dare I say that maybe Arbor Jackeye potted his first goal of the season this week because his brother was showing him up in the AHL last weekend with, I don't know, not just a hat trick, but
added a couple assists for a 5-point game.
Yeah. Hat trick. Florian Jackeye. 2 assists on top of that, 5 points in a 6-2 victory over the Bridgeport Islanders. A statement game from Laval, and certainly a statement game for Florian Jackeye as well. Then they came back home on Friday night for a visit with the Belleville Senators. Big, for me, the biggest thing of this game was Philip Meshar back in the lineup. Finally, you'll recall that he was injured 5 or 6 games into the season. And he has been out recovering from that injury ever since, but he returned to game action on Friday night, which is fantastic. Got it in before Christmas, and it's good to see him back. It'll take him a little while to get reacclimated.
I like the quote from Philip Meshar, this courtesy of Rocket Sports colleague Chris G. Philippe Meshar says, I felt pretty good about his return. I didn't get as many minutes as I played before his injury. We're just starting. I don't need to be gassed in the first game when I come back. So hungry for minutes already, but understands that they wanted to ease him back. Great comment collected by Chris G. From Philippe Meshar.
Definitely. This was also Logan Mayu's 100th game in the AHL, which is a pretty significant milestone for him to hit already. Keep in mind, if you remember, last season in his rookie campaign, he was the only member of the Laval Rocket who played all 72 games. He did not miss a game last season, and he is still on that this year as well. So he's just already now hit his 100th game. They did manage to win this one against Belleville 2-1. That's a pretty tight and low-scoring game for these two teams who do not like each other very much. And so where they lacked in offensive production, they made up for in penalty minutes. This game was ridiculous. And Belleville had 4 shots on goal in the first period. Laval had 5 shots on goal in the second period and 5 shots on goal in the third period.
But not only minor penalties.
No,
Please do. Yeah.
I'm going to get to that.
I'm excited to get to
the penalties. Were ridiculous. The two teams combined for 92 penalty minutes. Laval scored 1 power play goal. They went 1 for 7, and that actually ended up being the game winner. It was Joshua Waugh on the power play. That was the game-winning goal. Belleville 0 for 9. The refs were busy. This is both teams. Hooking, slashing, interference, slashing, roughing, fighting, instigating, fighting. 10-minute misconduct for instigating, holding, 10-minute misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct, 2-minute bench minor for unsportsmanlike conduct, 4-minute double minor for high sticking, 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct, holding, 10-minute misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct, 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct, roughing, tripping, roughing, too many men bench minor, and tripping.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder they didn't score many goals. They didn't have time because they were too busy sitting in the penalty box.
And it's fortunate that they had a good penalty kill. And after the game, it was head coach Pascal Vincent telling Chris G., quote, the PK won the game for us, blocking shots, clearing pucks, making big plays. We were aggressive when we needed to. On the bench, the guys were intense. I guess so. You could see it on the ice. The PK was outstanding.
Now, I do have to say, Pascal Vincent did not want to talk about the refs after the game, according to Chris G as well. The 3 10-minute misconducts for unsportsmanlike conduct all went to Laval players. Sorry, the 3 10-minute misconducts all went to Laval players. Lucas Candata got the 10-minute misconduct for instigating. Simoneau got the 10-minute misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct. And Alex Barry-Boulet got the other 10-minute misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct. That's
somebody said something.
Somebody said something. So for Laval, it's good. They've kind of righted the ship a little bit this week. Got 2 out of 3 games as a victory. They're still second in the North Division, 4th overall in the AHL, with a 17-8-1-1 record, 36 points on the season, and they do not play on Saturday night. They have another Sunday afternoon matinee. They'll be playing on Sunday afternoon. Still at home, hosting the Springfield Thunderbirds. We'll see if that game gets feisty as well, because those two teams don't like each other either. And things tend to get a little rough when they play as well. Trois-Rivières has turned their season around unbelievably, I have to say. They're in 5th overall in the ECHL right now.
Fabulous.
Won both of their games this week against Worcester and Norfolk. And 15-3-3 on the season.
And if you want the details about the Trois-Rivières Lions, every Monday or Tuesday, you'll want to read the Lions notepad. That comes from Chris G. And the companion piece, the Rocket notepad, comes out around the same time, once a week, again from Chris G. Just updating the Michkov, Demidov. Why did I say Michkov? Well, the Demidov conversation. Looks like he got a little bit of time on the first line in the game on Saturday morning, and
wonder if that's because
close
of who
to
was in
16 minutes of ice time. So
well, that's
that's
odd.
interesting. That's interesting.
I wonder if that has anything to do with who might have been in the building.
Well, we'll look into the details and talk about that next week on the podcast.
Yeah. Interesting. We talked at the top of the segment about the fact that Lane Hutson finally potted his first NHL goal this past week. And Rick did mention that he is currently second in rookie scoring with 23 points. Matvei Michkov, the only one sitting in front of him. But, it's no matter how well a youngster is doing in the points race, if those points have not come from any goals, that starts to weigh on an offensive forward after a while. So finally, after 32 games, that's including the 2 that he played at the end of last season, he scored his first NHL goal this week, and here's what he thought about it.
Yeah, it's pretty special. You never know when it's going to be your last goal or your first goal. So it's cool for sure, but would have loved to, score it and won the game. So hopefully we can do that soon.
Team first. It would have been nice to score his first goal in a winning environment. Again, this was in the game against the Winnipeg Jets, but still not only an achievement to get that first goal, but a bit of a relief, as you were saying, piling up the assists, but the goals weren't coming, and finally he's knocked that off the bucket list.
He also had some in the same interview, had some really nice things to say just about the environment in the locker room in Montreal and what it's been like for him so far acclimating to this new team.
Yeah, these guys have accepted me right from the start, been nothing but great to me, and for me it's like a group of brothers and some dads too. We got some older guys, but it's just such a fun group to be around and to learn from, and I've loved every minute of it, and I'm going to continue to love it.
Who you calling dad, kid? Probably Brendan Gallagher.
Yeah. Yeah, there's guys he considers brothers and older brothers, and there's guys that could be
dad material.
Yeah, that's really funny. But obviously, he's feeling accepted. Interesting the budding relationship that he's having with Patrik Laine and the way those two are getting along, and that's it's really great for him to have the success and even though the Canadiens aren't having the team success that they would like, he's acclimatizing to the NHL in a very positive way.
Just a couple of notes from around the hockey world in general before we take our first break leading up to our big topic segment. Comes some really pretty significant news out of the QMJHL this week. This has been bubbling and brewing for about a month and a half or so when the first rumors started to surface. And it's been finalized now and made official this week that, and maybe surprising to some, that the QMJHL this week announced the approval and the sale of relocating the Acadie Bathurst Titan to St. John's, Newfoundland, starting next season. The team was the sale was finalized on Thursday night. There's a group of investors out of Newfoundland who have been the winning group of investors to acquire the team. Had said right off the bat they wouldn't be keeping it in Acadie Bathurst, that they would move it to St. John's. They'll play at the Mary Brown Center where, well, quite frankly, the St. John's Ice Caps, the Montreal Canadiens AHL affiliate, played a number of years ago, likely due to very difficult attendance numbers and ticket sales. At the press conference, the folks who were seeing their team leave said, we tried everything we could. Please go support your Q teams if you have a local one. It sounded like it was a very difficult time, but exciting for the folks in St. John's.
Yeah, tough for Bathurst. They've had that team for 27 years under new owners in the past dozen or so. The Q commissioner, Mario Caccini, wanted to keep the team. That was his priority, but it just the numbers didn't work. Bathurst is the smallest market in major junior hockey, so they have been moved to St. John's, which has embraced hockey. Most recently the Newfoundland Growlers of the ECHL, a farm team of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and prior to that, as you mentioned, the Canadiens AHL affiliate was there, but prior to that was a junior hockey team. They were the St. John's Fog Devils, and our dear departed friend Shaq worked for the St. John's Fog Devils. That's where he got his start to hockey. They moved to Verdun. There's a couple of Canadiens connections there, becoming the Montreal Juniors, and made way for the AHL franchise. So now it's back to QMJHL for the fans in St. John's, and that's a real hockey rabid market.
Yeah, it is.
And I know they're going to support their team and enjoy junior hockey once again next season.
And I'm gonna bet that Buddy the Puffin will be coming out of hibernation.
Yeah,
if puffins hibernate, I don't think they do, but I'm sure Buddy the Puffin and many others who we know in the St. John's hockey community are very excited to see the sport return to the Mary Brown Center. Speaking of trades, the New York Rangers apparently one big trade last week wasn't enough. Capo Caco shipped out as well. headed to the Seattle Kraken for defenseman Will Borgen, plus 3rd and 6th round selections in the upcoming NHL draft in 2025. This was another big blockbuster trade with some pretty big names attached to it.
Well, the New York Rangers have said that they are open for business. Chris Drury wants to change what's going on there. Of course, Kaapo Kakko, brought in by the previous regime, selected by Jeff Gorton and Nick Bobrov, and this is a little bit shocking because you have Kaapo Kakko, who was taken in the 2019 draft, 2nd overall, just behind Jack Hughes. Will Borgen, nice enough player, but 28-year-old 3rd pairing defenseman, and then a couple of extra draft picks thrown in. And this is, again, we have a Canadiens connection here because the Jeff Gorton, Nick Bobrov have talked about the rebuild in New York, that they kind of they did things to accelerate the rebuild in New York. And things have kind of fallen off the rails there a bit. From the press article, I thought there was an interesting quote. It said, during their short rebuilding period from 2017 to 2020, the New York Rangers had 4 top 10 draft picks. And that's the rebuild managed by Gorton and Bobrov. The Rangers have just one left, Alexei Lafreniere, the 2020 first overall pick. The other 3 have been shipped out. So we hope that Bobrov and Gorton had learned some things, and that the Canadiens don't follow along the path of the New York Rangers, who are in some difficulty right now.
That is true. All right, we are going to take our first break here on the show. When we come back, our big topic segment, Carrier comes to Montreal. Does this move signal a change from Hughes and Gorton? We are going to get into the trade, and we are then going to take a look back at some of Hughes and Gorton's most significant trade in their current tenure to date with the Montreal Canadiens, and evaluate those. Something you are not going to want to miss. So stay with us. You are listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio.
You know, watching our favorite NHL players is just the gift that keeps on giving. And playing Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official partner of the NHL, is a way to take a shot at even more cash prizes. You can download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a statistic. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. And speaking of gifts, new Pick 6 customers play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Happy holidays from DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. Once again, my name is Amy Johnson. If you'd like to follow me over on X, you are welcome to do that at Flyers Rule. And once again, with me in the studio is our president and founder here at Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. Be sure you're following him on X at Rocket Sports. That's where you get links to all of our written articles, links to our YouTube videos, and in addition to that, links to the podcast and any news and updates that we put out on X throughout the week. So follow him there at Rocket Sports. Don't forget to follow us, the podcast itself, on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Habs Connection, and subscribe to this podcast. Just wherever you happen to be listening or watching this podcast right now, just look down and tap that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Now, since taking over the reins of the Canadiens, Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes have insisted that, nothing is going to make them veer away from their commitment to their long-term plan, that they're not going to steer away from the vision and the plan to rebuild the franchise into a perennial Stanley Cup contender. That is the goal. It's the ultimate goal. It should be the goal. It should be the only goal. And so in the course of doing that, they've stockpiled draft assets. They've gotten a boatload of talented young prospects, cleared any obstacles out of the way of their development. But this week, something changed, Rick. Something was a little different this week, because this was for the first time that they, quote unquote, gave up on one of the prospects that they had acquired, sending Justin Barron to the Preds for a veteran blue liner in Alexandre Carrier.
Yeah, it felt different. I shared that with our Rocket Sports colleagues on Slack. To me, it felt different for a number of reasons, and certainly, yes, it was Justin Barron that Kent Hughes and his scouting staff went out and got acquired in a pretty significant trade, and so to give up on him, it feels a little bit different than cleaning house, the house cleaning that Gorton and Hughes have been doing up to this point, yes, they acquired Jonathan Kovacevic, but not considered a prospect, not considered a future talented young defenseman. And this was all very different. And the other thing that made it feel a little bit different is that the discussion afterwards was about needing to shore up the current defense crew, and so this felt like a short-term fix. It was
not necessarily part of the bigger overall plan, but needing to fix something now.
Now that's yet to play out. If Carrier's acquisition leads to something else, and we can talk about what those things might be. It's still part of that plan, but it on the surface right now, it was kind of seen as a short-term fix. So that made it also feel a little bit different.
Well, yeah, but it also comes down to, as you said, they acquired Justin Barron as a young up-and-coming defenseman that obviously had some upside, obviously had qualities that they were looking for, that they thought they could turn into something. So by trading him away, without putting it in so many words, are they kind of quietly admitting that the Justin Barron acquisition was a failure? And if it was a failure, where does the blame lie for that? You could run down the list of who could be at fault for Justin Barron not turning into what they wanted him to turn into with the Montreal Canadiens. Scouting, the development staff, the coach, was it just not the right player? There's a litany of reasons, but the fact of the matter is Justin Barron's no longer with the Canadiens.
Yeah, you can ask whether this was a lack of patience on their part. whether they bet on the wrong player. Remember that they gave up on Jordan Harris, thinking that, and there was other things. There's other characteristics. Justin Barron lost his waiver exemption this year, so that factored into some things. But where is the fault, or is it a combination of different things? Did the scouts identify the wrong player? Did he not get properly developed? Is it the coaching staff, especially on the defensive side in Montreal, that couldn't get through to him, couldn't get the concepts through? Because Justin Barron, and it could be the player himself, Justin Barron just he wasn't progressing. He doesn't seem to be this season much different from the player that ended last season.
He doesn't. That is true. And, I know we'll talk about it more here in just a minute, but I will be, as has happened with other prospects who have left the organization who haven't found success with Montreal, I will be keen to keep an eye on how his development progresses now that he's outside the organization, to see if he can realize that potential. But when Jeff Gorton was asked about it in his press conference after introducing Alexandre Carrier, he brought this angle to the discussion.
Yeah, I think you can see it a lot with our team, right? We're a lot of nights we have 6 left-handed defensemen, and it's difficult, right? Especially for young guys breaking in the league. So we're asking a lot of them to switch over and be able to play both. And, when you're learning the position and you're trying to play in the best league in the world, and you're jumping to the other side, sometimes we're asking maybe some too much. So to find somebody on the right side with the experience that Alex has is exciting. I think it'll help our young guys that we have now.
This is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And it's a disconnect, obviously, between the discussions they're having at the general manager and executive VP level and the coaching level. Whenever Marty St. Louis has been asked, and that it's been a pet peeve of mine, our listeners are probably sick of hearing me say, why are you forcing these young players to play on their wrong side?
Particularly Caden Gooley.
Well, I've been talking about Caden Gooley and Mike Matheson. And if any player should be playing on his wrong side, it should be Mike Matheson. And yet from January of this year until the last couple of weeks, it was Caden Gooley who was forced to play on his wrong side, not the veteran Mike Matheson. I kept saying how difficult it is, especially for young players. And Jeff Gorton said some of the same things I've been saying here on the podcast, that you have enough to worry about adapting to the NHL, but being forced to play on your wrong side, that's something that the organization can control. And whenever Marty St. Louis was asked about it, he said, no, there's no big deal. He said, in an ideal world, of course, maybe we would like to. Yeah. But, it's so for Stéphane Robidas and Marty St. Louis, it hasn't been a big deal, but obviously it's been a point of discussion, and it is a big deal. And now it's being used as one of the reasons that they wanted to shore up the right side. Bring in a player who has a veteran, a 28-year-old who has played his career on the right side, and balance that left-right handedness for the Canadiens defensemen, because it's been difficult. And it hasn't just been Caden Gooley, it's Struble, Jordan Harris played on his wrong side. It's something that in Marty St. Louis' tenure, he hasn't paid much attention to. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, as it is with any time that there's a trade, players in the room understand that hockey is a business. The trades are going to happen. It still doesn't make it sting any less when one of your friends is the one who's leaving the locker room and won't be there the next day at practice and things like that. And for Caden Gooley, I think it hit a little close to home for him when the news came out that his friend Justin Barron was heading to Nashville.
What are you going to miss most about him?
I don't know. I think just having a good buddy. I mean, he's just a down-to-earth person. He always there to talk and hang out. He would always come out for dinner with us, like on the road, and we'd go for dinner here. And he lived 5 minutes away from all of us, and we all live close, and we're all a tight group. So I think just having a close friend, known him for a long time, known him before we played together here, and it's tough. Definitely, I'm sure we'll keep in touch and see him around. So.
Barron and Gooley played together prior to them coming to the Canadiens. Caden Gooley was a bit emotional there. And I think, again, we're talking about something about this trade feels different. This is different in that one of those players who's part of the young group, growing together, developing together, the kind of growth that they talked about, that's one player has been taken out of that group. And he talked about, Caden Gooley talked about Barron being a close friend, being there to talk, that he was down to earth, that they would go for dinner together. And in fact, the story goes that it was one of those dinners where the five buddies, all who live within close proximity, 5 minutes, Caden Gooley says, of each other. You had Justin Barron, you had Caden Gooley, you had Arbor Xhekaj, Michael Pezzetta, Jaden Struble. They were out for dinner. And it was after the dinner that they were heading home. About 9 o'clock, they were heading home in the car. Jaden Struble, I mean, those are five big guys to get in a car. So Jaden Struble took an Uber. And the other four were in the car being driven by Justin Barron. They're heading home. They're almost home. And up on the screen comes, and for all to see in the car, that it's Jeff Gorton on the line for Justin Barron. Justin Barron pulls over. His buddies bail out of the car to give him some privacy. They said, "Hey, we'll walk the rest of the way." And Justin Barron was then told the news by Jeff Gorton that he had been traded to the Nashville Predators. Really tough for this group. One of their own being traded away, and that they were they kind of saw the process in action. For Jeff Gorton, he said that's the first time that's ever happened to him, where he's contacted a player and they're within a group of his own players. But it's there's the human side to shipping players around and making major changes to your group.
And, I mentioned a moment ago that I'll be very interested to see if he's able to flourish within a new organization and see if he can finally kind of break through a little bit. And I feel even more encouraged by that after hearing what Barry Trotz had to say about acquiring Justin Barron.
In saying that, we're going to be welcoming Justin Barron, a player who I actually tried to acquire last year. It's funny, we've acquired two players that I wanted to acquire last year, in Noonan and Barron. In Justin's case, felt that he was being maybe Montreal has a lot of young defensemen, maybe being a little bit underutilized for where they're going, and what we have a great track record working with young defensemen. What we'll get is a younger player, former first-round pick. He's got some size to him. He's 6'2"-ish, 210, 215 pounds. He's got some length, and he's a really good skater. So what we've done in the past with developing defensemen, and a credit to our scouting staff. You see it right now. We've got 4 guys who have come up from the American League ranks and playing defense for us and contributing. So the scouting and the development process that we have, we feel very confident that hopefully Justin can fall into that and continue to grow with us.
So they see that is the Nashville Predators, Barry Trotz and his scouting staff. This is a player that they have followed for quite some time, and are quite familiar with Justin Barron. Tried to make a trade for Justin Barron last season, but weren't successful in doing so. He said they figured that he was underutilized. Yes, Barron was in and out of the lineup on a rotation with Jaden Struble playing, they each played more or less half the games. And Barry Trotz said, and very complimentary, he's not criticizing anybody. He just said that we've excelled at developing young defensemen and think that they can develop Barron to his potential. Has size, has reach, is a very good skater, and are willing to go ahead and take a chance on a player who's 5 years younger. Carrier was a player that was having a difficult year for them. They signed him in the off season just before he went to free agency. And they're willing to free up some cap space, get younger, and try to get the best out of Justin Barron.
So who is Alexandre Carrier? Who are they getting? He's a 28-year-old defenseman. A little bit on the smaller side, 5'11", 170 pounds. You did mention they just re-signed him before he went to free agency over the summer. I believe a 3-year contract. I think he's in the first year of a 3-year contract at $3.75 million per year. Probably not insignificant that he was born in Quebec City and lives in Montreal already. And so this was, he has expressed in the past that he would like to play for the Montreal Canadiens. So this obviously was a natural fit in that method. Drafted back in 2015 in the 4th round by Nashville, 115th overall. So those are kind of the X's and O's in his tenure since going with the NHL and becoming an NHL player, Rick. There are some certain characteristics that certainly have been attributed to Alexandre Carrier.
Yeah, I think, and Barry Trotz talked about, I called him Carr, called Carr a character player, said how competitive he is, talked about his leadership qualities. For Nashville, Carr has been a penalty killer, blocked shots. I guess on the other side of it is that he's had a really rough year. The question has to be asked, Nashville's had a bad year. Yeah. So is it the team? Is it the player? Is it the player contributing to the team? Bad start. I mean, you could say the same thing about Justin Barron. The Canadiens aren't having a good season. So is it, which one's influencing which one? Mm-hmm. The article in La Presse, I thought it was interesting. They said Carrier has, and I'll quote, has been the Predators' worst defenseman this season and one of the worst defensemen in the NHL in terms of puck possession and anticipated goals allowed. So that on his defensive side, he has been the Predators' worst defenseman and one of the worst in the NHL. And that was certainly a knock. The defensive side of the game is certainly a knock on Justin Barron as well. Will the different environments help both teams? Is Carrier at a stage in his career where he can fill in and help the Canadiens in a different way. Well, we'll see. But I think that was something that Jeff Gorton said as well, that this is a player that they had followed for quite some time and talked about his character, how he's going to fit into the locker room, and said it's important. They give great consideration to who they bring into their locker room, and they're confident that Carrier is going to be the right fit for his part. Of course, he's thrilled to play. He born in Quebec City, now lives in Montreal, walking distance from the Bell Center. Was excited to tell his family, and his family was sleeping already when he tried to make the call. But you can tell he's terribly excited to be part of the Montreal Canadiens. We don't have any audio from him for you just yet. He's had 2 opportunities before and after the game in Detroit, but hasn't spoken English. We'll get you an English quote from you, I hope. Chantal,
nice.
Work on that, please.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can hear from him, from Alexandre himself.
Absolutely. So let's just look back. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane. This is the latest trade that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have put together. If we go back to the beginning, just take a look at some of the significant transactions that these two have pulled off. If you remember, Hughes became GM of the Canadiens January 18th, 2022. So closing in on 3 years ago. And the very first move that he made was a pretty minor one. If you remember, he acquired goaltender Andrew Hammond.
All right.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, that was the Brandon Baddock trade.
Yeah.
And I was impressed that the first trade he made was for a goaltender.
Yes. Could we go back to that?
But there was a string of goaltender acquisitions at that time. Anyway, but the first significant trade he made came a couple of days later, Valentine's Day in 2022. That it was, again, we said about cleaning house, collecting assets. It was Tyler Toffoli who was traded to the Calgary Flames, conditional first-round pick, which became Philippe Machar, fifth-round pick, which became Volokin, who we talked about. Emil Heineman also included in this trade, and Tyler Pitlick. The Canadiens no longer have any Pitlicks in the organization, but for his first major trade, that's a pretty good one. We'll see how Philippe Machar turns out, but to get a first round pick as well as an asset like Heineman, and we'll see what happens with Volokin as well.
Well, and I remember when this trade happened, the media and fans were really unsure how they felt about getting Heineman back for someone as popular as Tyler Toffoli was. I think the initial reaction was that they were a bit underwhelmed. And admittedly, when Heineman first came, his first season in Laval, remember, still under JF Uhl's tutelage down there and so forth, he didn't jump right off the page when he first transitioned over to the Canadiens organization. Last season, that started to change. Particularly in the second half of the season when the team kind of got itself together and he really started to break out more and more with the Laval Rocket this year. And now you see what he's doing this year. He had an outstanding training camp, really came with that competitive edge, and he's been doing a great job for the Canadiens. So I think this ended up as well liked as Tyler Toffoli was. I think getting Philippe Machar and getting Emil Heineman, those two factors alone made this a worthy trade, I think, I think in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. And Heineman, the questions there, it was he drafted by Florida, traded to Calgary and then to Montreal. The question was, this is a very young player. Why is he getting traded so much?
Yeah.
But as we mentioned in the first segment, there he is with the laser of a shot. 7 goals, second only to Michkov in rookie scoring.
Yep. So then just about a month later, March 16th of 2022, Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton traded another longtime Canadiens player, Ben Sherratt, retained 50% of his contract, but they traded him to Florida for Ty Smilanic, a first round pick, 31st overall, which they eventually actually later traded that pick to Colorado, and a 4th round pick.
Yeah, so Ty Smilanic, some issues. Remember, he transferred colleges, transfer protocol, then in ECHL eventually, and AHL, ECHL, and just flamed out. That first round pick that they got as part of the Sherratt trade, traded to Colorado as part of the Alex Newhook trade.
That's right.
And so, we all, even at the time, we said the Alex Newhook trade, the late first round pick and early second round pick, that was a huge price to pay for Alex Newhook. And that Alex Newhook
it's not been worth it yet, I don't think.
No, he's been okay, but not what they expected, not the turnaround project that they expected, and very expensive to acquire him.
Mm-hmm. The trade that they made 5 days later, one of the 2 trades that they made 5 days later, however, I think as much as I liked this player, this I think was a win-win for everyone involved. They traded Brett Kulak to the Edmonton Oilers. And we know how well Kulak has worked out for the Oilers. He has found a good home out there. What did they get in return? William Lagesson and a conditional second rounder. Well, who was that conditional second rounder that they ended up getting for Brett Kulak? Lane Hutson.
Yeah, and in a redraft, there's no way Lane Hutson is. I understand that teams were. It was a bit of a gamble by the Canadiens to get Lane Hutson, given his size, and we remember him passing around the sheet saying how much he grew, and doctors and so on. The Canadiens took a gamble, but it has paid off unbelievably. As I was about to say, in a redraft, there's no way that Lane Hutson goes number 62.
No.
Again, so that was a big successful trade by Gorton and Hughes.
Very savvy trade. Again, and I think Brett Kulak is in a better place in Edmonton. So I think this was a win for everyone involved. Really ended up being a great trade. But that wasn't the only trade that they made that day. Also on March 21st in 2022, they moved Arturi Lehkonen out of house, retained 50% of his contract in their trade with the Colorado Avalanche, getting in return Justin Barron, and a second round pick in 2024 that they later traded back to Colorado. So particularly since they've now ended up trading away Justin Barron, I still would like to see Arturi Lehkonen playing for the Montreal Canadiens.
So that second round pick, we mentioned an early second round pick that went to Colorado in the Newhook trade. That's where that one came from. And if you do the shorthand, Arturi Lehkonen for 4th round pick. Alexandre Carrier, that's an awful trade. That is just awful. Arturi, speaking of underutilized or misused players in Montreal, 4th line, 3rd line, as soon as Lehkonen goes to Colorado, he's on the top in the top 6. He's power play. He's was a key player for their Stanley Cup run. That is, I don't care who you are. That's a bad trade overall. And again, what was it? What was it with respect to? Did they identify the wrong player in Justin Barron? Is that on the scouting staff? Is it what Barry Trotz says? And that other people can do a better job developing that defenseman than Montreal. What is it? What was it? Coaching staff, the utilization. What was it? That's not going to look good. It's not going to age well for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton.
Things then quieted down until the draft in 2022, where on July 7th, things really heated up when, in order to acquire Kirby Dach, Kent Hughes gave up their first-round pick at number 13 that they had previously gotten from the New York Islanders, and a third-round pick. That they traded both of those picks to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Kirby Dach.
Yeah, and this one is, again, jury's still out on Kirby Dach, and nobody's giving up on Kirby Dach yet, but he's been awful this season in terms of his performance, in terms of his demeanor, in terms of a lot of things. This was a big give for Montreal, giving up a top 13 pick, and Frank Nazar, who is the player who was available at that point, and the player that Chicago chose, he had some injury issues, but now that he's past that. He was top rookie scorer. I believe that was our dear friend Patrick Williams. When he got called up to Chicago, he was either
at the beginning of this month.
Yeah, he was top 1 or 2 in rookie goal scoring in the AHL. Was having a sensational season in the AHL. Now called up to the Chicago Blackhawks in the NHL.
That's right. So jury is still out on that one, but we said at the time, just like the Newhook trade, that price for Kirby Dach was also pretty steep. And Newhook and, those were 2 steep price tags for players who have not yet really panned out. As you say, jury's still out, but we'll see how that ends up. Then later that summer, in August of 2022, traded Sean Monahan to the Calgary Flames. Got Sean Monahan from the Calgary Flames and a conditional first-round pick in 2025 for future considerations. Gave up nothing and got Sean Monahan and a conditional first-rounder this coming year.
Again, taking a chance on a player who was injured, and there were some questions about. But the whole Sean Monahan portfolio, both coming into the organization and leaving the organization, getting a couple of first-round picks, was absolute home run on all ends. Really well played by Gorton and Hughes, and is probably their most successful set of trades around Sean Monahan that have a lasting effect on the organization, as long as they make good use of the assets that they acquire from that. So we're not going to go through the whole portfolio, but there you have the first 8 months of Kent Hughes' reign, and some of the highlights in those first 8 months. And as you see, I think that the general feeling has been, until recently, maybe this fall, has been that Kent Hughes has been amazing, that every deal that he's made has been a home run, that he's fleeced every other, and make up your own headlines, but he's fleeced every other GM And I think the reality is, when we look at it, that there's some ups, there's some downs, there's some
question marks.
There's a bit more checkered record, and that's what you might expect from a general manager, especially one who came into the position without any experience, and especially one a portfolio with the kind of background that Jeff Gorton's had, Nick Bobroff, and the team that they've put together. So we just thought we would spend some time. We thought it would be a good opportunity to take a look at that, give a few highlights, and kind of reflect on how this trade is seen in a different context, is seen quite differently from the ones that the Gorton-Hughes pair have made in the past.
And that leads us right into our Canadiens Connection question of the week for all of you. Really want to hear your thoughts on this. If you could undo one trade made by the current Habs management, which one would it be and why? Now, it could be one of the ones we just talked about, but there's a bevy of other smaller trades or less impactful trades that Hughes and Gorton have also completed over the last almost 3 years. So it doesn't have to be one of the ones that we just talked about, but it certainly could be. Or you could select a different one from their almost 3-year tenure. But if you could undo one trade out of all the trades made by the current Habs management, which one would it be, and why would you take it back? Don't forget, you can leave us a comment on YouTube. You can send us a comment on social media at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, or Instagram. Or the easiest way for you to do it is to simply send us a text at the Rocket Sports text line, 5853-ROCKET. If you could undo one trade made by the current Habs management, which one would it be? And tell us why. And we're going to pick the best responses out of the groups, out of all the ones that we get, and read them on next week's show. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of differing opinions on that one. What we're going to do right now is take our second break for the show, hear from our sponsors over at Game Time. And when we come back, we are going to let you have your say. We've got some really terrific responses to last week's question of the week. In fact, we've got a lot of your responses to cover because we had so many of them. It was hard to pick. It's hard to pick the best ones out of everything that we got. So we're going to get to that in just a moment. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio. We all love settling in our favorite chair at home to watch a night of NHL action, but nothing beats getting to see your favorite team play live. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm looking right now in the Game Time app at the Montreal Canadiens' upcoming homestand, and I'm seeing ticket prices starting at $30. $30 to get into the Bell Center to see the Montreal Canadiens. There are tons of deals available. What I really like about the Game Time app for tickets is their all-in pricing. If you toggle the feature on the app for all-in pricing, it shows the complete total cost for the tickets up front so that you don't get any surprise fees at checkout. You also get seat views. You can select to see a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what your view is going to look like. They have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And the Game Time app just makes it so simple. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps in the app. Last minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And welcome back to episode 327 of the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio. Don't forget, give us a follow on our social media platforms. Absolutely be sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You can find that at InsideTheCanadiens.com. Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music. There's so many podcast platforms that we're a part of. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you ever miss an episode, don't forget you can head over to our archive at CanadiensConnection.fm and check it out right there.
That's a fun conversation and complete. And I think, we kind of hinted about Carrier may be part of a future plan. That future plan we may start to see as we get closer to the trade deadline, because you have a 28-year-old who is a penalty killer, blocks shots. And remember, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, look at the Canadiens penalty killers. And they just happen to coincide with the unrestricted free agents that are on their way out or could be on their way out. David Savard being one of those guys. David Savard in the final year of his contract. David Savard, no talks about on re-signing so far as far as we know. Have they just, or can they replace his penalty killing? And the difference is that Carrier could play in the top four. Savard, he's not able to play in the top four anymore. So could that be part of, could this be a set of dominoes, and Carrier is part of a longer term plan as a replacement, even a temporary replacement for a David Savard?
Could be.
Food for thought, and you might want to think about that when you're responding to our question of the week.
That's right. Don't forget, our question of the week this week is, if you could undo one trade made by current Habs management, which one would it be and why? Show your work. You have to explain why. We would definitely want to hear from you. 5853 Rocket. Leave us a comment in all of the usual places. Last week, you did just that. So many of you with responses to last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week, which was, if you could give the Canadiens one gift this holiday season, what would it be? And so we've got a number of them to bring to you. I'm going to start on YouTube with She26. She says, the first comment has to be on Lina's style of clothing. He's definitely unique. I like that he chooses to stay true to who he is. I like that too. She says, I also feel so bad for Primo. This should not be happening again. I'm literally watching history repeat itself. Seeing both Allen and Primo go through this last season with no ice time, Allen wound up being the lucky one to get traded. And we'll see. Caden Primo, this is not part of her comment. This is just my own addition. These days, Caden Primo, the only time he sees the ice is if Sam Montembeault gets pulled. It's been a while since he started a game. We'll see if that's going to change anytime soon. She goes on to say, also, Pez, let him play. They're ruining his career too. Marty St. Louis, ha ha ha. How many times has he said it has to be a one-off? He's definitely said that more than once before, which I guess would mean that it's not a one-off. She said, Laval is fun to watch. I love watching them, even if I only see highlights. They're actually playing hockey. Now, the question of the week, this is way too easy for me. Jeff Gordon, Kent Hughes, and Marty St. Louis all need to go. We need leadership for this team. Doesn't matter who goes first. Oops, wait. Yes, it does. Marty St. Louis needs to go. Thanks again, guys. She's not shy about the fact that she's not a fan of Marty St. Louis. But thank you very much for your comment. Always a very well thought out comment. She's She26, always in there with some really great opinions, and we appreciate them. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you.
Next one.
Yeah.
This one, direct from St. Petersburg. Our friend Leonid in St. Petersburg, who we hear from now and again. He says, great show, thank you. Unfortunately, the team's performance isn't great, but that's not the most important thing. I don't see any dynamics. I don't see anything changing, and that's worrying. The main argument for not rocking the boat is the possible loss of the locker room. However, it looks like it's already been lost. Hockey players understand the situation, same as fans do. Being inside, they understand the situation, in fact, much better than we do. They also studied math in school. If there were any hopes of being in the mix, it's obvious to everyone that we are in the mixer. Let's be honest, the season's already lost. Now this coaching staff will have 60% of the season to understand what the main problems are and outline ways to solve them, to understand which players fit the desired model. I look at how other franchises operate, and I don't understand what this ritual dance is for. If a new coach is appointed this summer, then he will need at least half a season to do what I wrote about above. In addition, there are far fewer opportunities for changes in the team during the season than in the summer. This is another year that the young hockey players on the team will lose. Sabres have similarly lost their enormous potential. I understand there are other factors, but still, I would like to see development that varied dynamics, and even if victories were rare guests on our street, we could look to the future with optimism. I like how he's phrased that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't see anything like that. With warm greetings from St. Petersburg, your friend Leonid.
Always good to hear from him. He's always got a very, very good perspective on things. At Habinations kept it short and sweet. All I want for Christmas is a new coach.
All right.
Sorry, Marty, you're not getting a lot of holiday love.
Next one comes, you know what, I don't want to embarrass anybody here, so we'll leave the name out.
Okay.
We'll just read the comment. Being, quote, in the mixed was never expressed as a goal. It's much maligned because it's been mischaracterized by the media and podcasters. Oh, those rotten media and podcasters.
Yeah.
They made the whole thing up, apparently.
So let me just reread that first sentence. Being, quote, in the mix was never expressed as a goal.
Unrelated. I just have an extra clip here to play if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think the players have higher expectations of themselves as well. And I think there's every reason to believe that we would be in the mix and competing for a playoff spot.
Jeff Molson, I just thought it was a good time for you to hear that again.
That was at the Canadiens golf tournament.
September 16th, when they were talking about their goals and objectives for the season. Jeff Gorton at that same golf tournament, September 16th, expressing his goals and objectives for the season.
Well, I mean, of course, that's the biggest question coming in, what we're going to be like. I think, we talked about at the end of the season a lot about the phrase we used is in the mix. That's where we want to be. But I'm not going to put it past this team, to do that. I know the players in that room feel really confident about their team and what we can do this year. So, no, I think that as the season progresses and it gets, after the trade deadline, we're still in there, playing meaningful games, competing, for a spot. I think that'll be important for our group, the evolution. We've had a few years, obviously, where, we've picked, 5 a couple times here first. So it'll be nice to see if we can move it along and like I said, as the season goes along, we get into April, that we're playing games that really, really matter.
So move it along, move it along, and be in the mix, and play meaningful games because we're in the mix. That's what
if I remember
he
correctly,
sees for the season.
Kent Hughes also repeated that phrase on that day.
I could play a dozen clips.
Nick Suzuki.
It was, we remember, it was, they had a meeting about it. It was a phrase where they sat down and tested it and came up with something. As Jeff Gorton says, it's something that we've decided we would use to characterize the season and our goals for the season. So that's interesting. Listen, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody here. No. People have different sets of involvement, engagement in the Montreal Canadiens. People miss things all the time. If you're casual fan in and out, you may have missed it. So that's why I chose not to read the name there. But
right.
I don't think it was.
But that being in the mix was actually expressed as a goal over and over and over again. Gonna wrap things up with a comment from our friend at Center Heist 7948. He says, I want the Habs to get permanent intensity and passion consistently for Christmas. That's a good wish.
Let's all have that.
He said, great show and have a Merry Christmas to you both. Center Heist, Merry Christmas to you as well. And Merry Christmas to all of you out there. We certainly are grateful for all of you this holiday season and all year long for being loyal listeners and viewers and always sending in such great comments. As we say all the time, we love to hear from all of you. So keep sending them in. We're going to have lots to talk about next week. It's going to be a jam-packed week for the Canadiens. They will host Detroit on Saturday night at the Bell Center for the second part of that home-and-home series. Then on Monday night, the 23rd, Montreal will travel to Columbus to play the Blue Jackets, and that will be the last game before the Christmas break. They'll have off the rest of the week, and then they will be back on Saturday the 28th. And we're only mentioning the Saturday game because it's another one of those 1:00 games. They will be in Florida. They start their Christmas road trip now, and they will kick things after playing in Columbus on Monday. They will visit the Florida Panthers on Saturday. That's a 1:00 game. Also happens to be the next day that our Canadiens Connection podcast will be out. So look for our podcast.
A little bit earlier
in the day that day, since there is an earlier game start. Rick, Merry Christmas to you. It's been a fun first almost half of the season so far. Looking forward to some more. And Merry Christmas to all of our listeners and viewers. We just hope that you all have just a wonderful, wonderful holiday season with your families.
Yeah, have a safe and happy Christmas. To our listeners, to our families, to everybody who is part of our Rocket Sports team. To the folks that we talk to, our colleagues in the hockey community every day, and we're wishing you all a great Christmas season.
Absolutely. So be safe, enjoy cookies, goodies, good food, good friends, good company, and don't forget to meet us back here next Saturday for another exciting edition, the last one of 2024. Right here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.